Ethan sat at the head of the long glass table, his face composed like a man in charge. The boardroom was flooded with morning light. Around him, executives flicked through charts and made their points with laser pointers and enthusiasm. On the wall, a large screen blinked with quarterly projections and market growth slides. But Ethan wasn't there. He was stuck in a memory that refused to leave his head. A girl, 5, maybe 6, big soft eyes, wild curls, and on her neck, just behind. Her left ear, the exact birthmark he had. Same shape, same faded swirl. Impossible, but he had seen it. In the company lobby, just the day before, when a child ran out of the daycare chasing a red balloon. He hadn't imagined her. She'd smiled at him, said, "Hi, mister." And then, "My mommy is the best lawyer in this whole building." Lawyer. His lawyer. His collar suddenly felt tighter. Someone beside him, Monica from finance, nudged him gently under the table. He blinked. People were clapping. A presentation had ended. He smiled politely, nodded once. His pen tapped a nervous rhythm. Mia. That was her name. She had told him, "I'm Mia. I'm 5.5. Mia." The birthmark. The eyes. The way her voice had curled around the word mommy, like it was made of gold. And her mother. Grace. The name slammed into his chest like a freight train. Grace. His heart knew it before his mind caught up. After the meeting, he didn't wait to shake hands or make small talk. He stood fast, nearly knocking over his chair, and walked out, without a word. He took the elevator straight to the first floor. The lights in the daycare area buzzed gently overhead. His steps were heavy, urgent. "Is Mia still here?" he asked the receptionist. She smiled, confused by the intensity in his voice. "Oh, no, sir. She just left with her mother." His chest dropped like a stone into water. "Right, thank you." He walked back slowly, hands clenched in his pockets. His thoughts were louder than the elevator's soft ding. By the time he returned to his office, he was pacing like a lion. It couldn't be. Could it? Back at home that evening, Ethan couldn't eat. Couldn't focus on anything except the wild possibility looping in his brain. 6 years ago, a hotel room. A night he never forgot. A woman who vanished before sunrise. They hadn't exchanged names. They hadn't even planned to meet. One night, one connection, one heartbreak that never healed. He sat on the edge of his bed and pulled out his phone. To PA. Send me the complete employee files for every Grace working in the company, tonight. He hit send, then sat back in the dark, heart racing. The email came at 9:43 p.m. 10 files, 10 different women named Grace. He opened the first one. Grace, admin, not her. Second, Grace, finance, not even close. By the 5th file, his hands were shaking. 9th file. He tapped it. Her face appeared, Grace Mayoa, older now, but it was her. He stared at the screen like it held his entire life inside. Same eyes. Same mouth. The woman who had cried with him, touched him, held him, and then disappeared. His eyes drifted to the bottom of the file. Marital status, single dependent, one child's name, Mia. Mayoa Ethan dropped the tablet. Tears came before he realized he was crying. The next morning, his eyes were red from a sleepless night. He barely touched his breakfast. He had to talk to someone. He knocked on his grandfather's door. Roland, regal as always, was sipping tea by the window. "You didn't sleep?" he said without looking. "I found her," Ethan said, sitting down heavily. "The woman from 6 years ago, she works here." Roland raised an eyebrow. "She has a daughter. Her name is Mia. She has my birthmark." Silence. "Grandpa," Ethan whispered, "I think she's mine." Roland took a slow sip. "Then go. Find her. If she's yours, bring her home." Back at the office, Ethan wore his usual tailored suit, but it felt like armor this time. "Schedule a meeting with Barrister Grace Mayowe," he told his PA. She nodded and left. Minutes later, she returned. "Sir, she's in court this morning." "Of course she is." A lawyer, he clenched his jaw. "Tell me the moment she's back." Hours passed. Noon came. Then 2 p.m. At 2:04, he grabbed his keys. "I'm going to court." Just as he reached the door, his PA ran in. "Sir, she's back!" He froze. "Send her to me. Now!" Grace had barely put her bag down in her office when the call came from HR. "The CEO wants to see you. Immediately." Her heart dropped. What did Mia say this time? She walked the hall like it was death row, knocked. "Come in," he said. She stepped inside and froze. The man behind the desk stood slowly. It was him, from the hotel, from that night. The man she never forgot. She staggered backward. "Hi," he said, voice soft. Her bag fell from her hand. Grace stared at Ethan like a ghost had walked out of her past and taken human form. Her knees buckled. She grabbed the chair arm and sat down quickly. He didn't speak right away. He just watched her, eyes narrowed, not angry, not cold. Just stunned. Grace swallowed hard. "Good afternoon, sir," she said, her voice cracked and shaky. "I was told you wanted to see me." "Yes, Miss Mayowa," Ethan said gently. "Please have a seat." I'm already seated." "Right." He cleared his throat, then lowered himself into his chair again, never breaking eye contact. "Grace," she flinched. "You disappeared on me that morning," he said. Her eyes widened. "No name, no number. You just vanished." "I didn't think you'd remember," she said, barely audible. "It was one night, no promises, no details." Ethan leaned forward slowly, elbows on the desk. "But I did remember. Every part." She blinked fast, holding back tears. He looked at her, voice quiet but steady. "Is Mia my daughter?" Silence. Grace looked down at her hands. She wrung them together like they might confess for her. Her breath was uneven. Her throat worked. He waited. Her voice came out in a whisper. "Yes." Ethan sat back slowly, the air sucked from his lungs. He didn't react for several seconds. He stared past her out the window into something that wasn't there. "I didn't plan this," she said quickly, guilt flooding her face. "I didn't come to this company to trap you or get attention or—" "I know," he said. She paused, stunned. "You do?" "I know the kind of woman who would vanish without asking for anything," he said. "You never wanted anything." "Not then, not now." Grace looked away. "I didn't think you'd even recognize me. I changed. I moved on." "You moved into my building," he said, eyes lifting. "That's not exactly far." "I didn't know you were the CEO when I took the job," she said. "I swear, Ethan, it was coincidence." He nodded. "And the birthmark? That's coincidence too?" She closed her eyes. "I thought I could keep it hidden. Mia." She started asking questions. He leaned forward again. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't know how you'd react," she snapped, suddenly fierce. "You were gone. You never asked my name. We didn't exchange anything that night. You didn't look back. You left." Ethan opened his mouth, closed it again. She took a breath. "And then I had her, and I was terrified. I didn't know how to find you. I wasn't even sure if I should." He rubbed his face. The weight in the room was suffocating. "I've missed 5 years," he said finally. 5 years of her life. I didn't plan it like that. But it happened. She looked at him, pain in her eyes. "Do you want a DNA test?" "I don't need one." Surprise flashed across her face. "She's mine," he said simply. "I saw it. I felt it." Grace stood suddenly, needing to move. She walked to the window, arms crossed tight around her chest. "She talks about you, you know," she said. "Even before she knew who you were. She said you smelled like new car and success. She said you talked like a cartoon king." Ethan laughed under his breath. "That does sound like her. She's one of a kind." He nodded, eyes softening. "I could tell." A beat passed. Grace turned slowly. "What now?" "I want to meet her properly," he said. "Not just in passing. Not as some mystery man she runs into. I want to know her." Grace hesitated. "She'll have questions. Big ones. I'll answer all of them. She'll get attached. I want her to." Grace's voice cracked. "And if you change your mind?" "I won't." Another pause. Longer this time. Then she nodded. "Okay. You can meet her, but slow. Please. She's just a child." He stood, walked around the desk, stopping in front of her. "And what about us?" Grace looked up, startled. "That night? I never forgot it. I never forgot you. Ethan, I'm not saying we need to rewrite everything right now. But this matters. You matter. And Mia, she's not just my daughter. She's ours." Grace's eyes welled with tears. "I need time," she whispered. "I'll give you that." The silence settled into something new. Not tension, not guilt, just fragile hope. That night, Grace sat at the kitchen table, staring at her phone. "Call." "Grandma," Mia said, handing it to her. Grace sighed, but dialed. When Grandma Rose picked up, Mia didn't wait. "Grandma, Mommy's boss is so fine. He smells like soft money. Can we make him our daddy?" Grace lunged for the phone. "Mommy, please don't mind her," she said, exasperated, but Rose was already laughing loud enough to wake the neighbors. Meanwhile, in his penthouse, Ethan stood at the window, the city glowing beneath him. He couldn't sleep. Grace's voice still echoed in his head. "Yes, Mia is yours." He placed a hand over his chest. It didn't hurt anymore. It burned with something new. The invitation came on a Wednesday afternoon. Grace, after 2 sleepless nights of internal wrestling, sent Ethan a text. "You can come for lunch on Saturday. Mia deserves to know you outside of boardrooms and chance meetings." Ethan stared at the message, his heart skipping. His fingers hovered above the screen for a few seconds before typing, "Thank you. I'll be there. Can I bring someone?" Grace replied with one word. "Who?" "My grandfather. He's part of my family, and I want Mia to meet both of us." Grace took a breath before responding. Fine, but no surprises. She had no idea what was coming. By Saturday morning, Grace was vacuuming imaginary dust from the corners of her spotless living room. Mia zipped through the house in a sparkling dress, asking questions every 7 seconds. "Mommy, is he coming in a big car?" "Yes." "Will he wear his king suit again?" "He's not a king, Mia." "But he looks like one." Grace rolled her eyes and shouted down the hallway, "Mia, if you touch those cookies before lunch, I swear I didn't even open the jar," came the tiny, guilt-filled voice. In the kitchen, Grandma Rose was a tornado in her best wrapper, pots clanging, spices dancing in the air. She wore her finest gold earrings and a head wrap large enough to catch the Wi-Fi signal from the next town. "If this man wants to meet my granddaughter, he will meet her in a house that smells like victory," she declared, slamming a pot lid down like punctuation. "You're not overdoing it at all," Grace muttered. "Nonsense," Rose replied. "I've cooked for kings, criminals, and ungrateful husbands. I know how to set the tone." Grace paused. "You cooked for Grandpa that much?" "Ha, that old goat. I cooked better for strangers." Grace chuckled, but her nerves crept in. Again. Ethan was coming, to her home, to see their daughter, to meet this. At exactly 1:15 p.m., a black SUV pulled up in front of the house. Grace peeked out the window and froze. "Oh no," she whispered. "What?" Rose asked, wiping her. Hands on a dish towel, he brought someone. A second man stepped out of the SUV, tall, broad-shouldered, white agbada flowing like royalty, sunglasses gleaming, and a confident stride that could silence a room. Rose narrowed her eyes. When the doorbell rang, Grace called, "Grandma, they're here! I have ears!" Rose snapped. She walked out of the kitchen, smoothed her head wrap, adjusted her blouse, and strode into the living room just as the door opened. Ethan stepped in first, carrying a bottle of wine. Behind him stood the man in white, removing his sunglasses. The tray in Rose's hand clattered to the ground. Her mouth dropped. "Roland," she breathed. The man blinked. "Rose?" The air froze. Grace looked between them. "Wait, you two know each other?" Rose scoffed, folding her arms. "No. This lying rabbit was my boyfriend in university." Ethan blinked. "What?" Grace gasped. "Grandpa Roland?" Roland removed his glasses slowly. "You left me for Chris, your so-called darling husband." Rose's voice climbed. "I left you because I saw you kissing Patricia in the library." She kissed me. "You stood there enjoying it like it was cold Zobo. I was shocked. You counted the seconds. Yes, because I was dying inside." Grace held Mia protectively by the shoulders. "What is happening?" Ethan stepped forward, wide-eyed. "You two dated?" "Oh, we did more than date," Roland muttered. "Don't start, old devil," Rose snapped. Grace sat down hard. "This is Nollywood. Part 4. Mia, meanwhile, was beaming. "This is better than all my cartoons." The family lunch began 30 minutes late due to the extended exchange of long-held grudges, verbal jabs, and kitchen-based passive aggression, but the table looked like heaven. Jollof rice, pepper soup, fried plantains, pounded yam, and enough stew to drown secrets. Everyone sat cautiously. Roland tried to compliment the soup. Rose responded by complimenting the cutlery instead. Ethan kept one hand on his wine glass like a man expecting an ambush. Mia, unfazed, happily narrated how a boy named Chelsea had stolen her biscuit and that she'd forgiven him because he was cute but not as fine as Daddy. Ethan choked on his wine. Grace gently put her hand on Mia's shoulder. "Let's keep the cuteness comparison to a minimum, baby." "But it's true," Mia whispered. "Daddy is fine. Even Grandma said it." "Did she now?" Ethan said, with a smirk. Rose rolled her eyes. "I said he smells fine. That's different." Roland cleared his throat. "The soup tastes just like I remember, Rose." She didn't look up. "I've cooked better for people who didn't cheat on me." "Still holding that, huh?" he muttered. "You held Patricia in front of the library. That was 40 years ago." "Pain doesn't expire." Mia looked at Grace. "What's cheat?" "Finish your yam." After dessert, a chaotic mix of laughter, tears, and one dropped ladle, everyone migrated to the living room. The energy shifted. Grace stood and took Mia's hand. "Mia," she said gently, "come here, baby." Mia walked over, licking the last of some mysterious sauce off her thumb. "You've always asked about your daddy," Grace said softly, "and I've waited too long to tell you." She turned to Ethan. "This is your father." Mia froze. Her tiny mouth formed an O. "Wait, for real?" she whispered. Grace nodded, already tearing up. Mia's lower lip wobbled. "You're really my daddy?" Ethan knelt. "Yes, baby. I'm so sorry I wasn't there, but I'm here now." She ran into his arms so fast that Ethan nearly lost balance. She clung to his neck like a lifeline, crying into his shoulder. "I have a daddy," she whispered. Ethan held her tight, blinking away tears. "And I'm not going anywhere." Even Roland looked away, pretending to clean his glasses. Rose silently wiped her cheek with the corner of her wrapper. Grace stood frozen, watching her daughter in Ethan's arms, and for the first time in years, her world shifted. It didn't fall apart. It fit. That evening, after Ethan and Roland left, and the house was quiet, Grace sat with Rose in the kitchen, sipping tea. "He really does love her," Grace said softly. Rose didn't respond immediately. Then she sighed. "I saw the way he looked at both of you." Grace nodded, staring into her cup. "Do you think people can really fix the past?" Rose chuckled. "Sometimes the past doesn't need fixing, it just needs permission to walk into the present." Outside, Mia was already telling her dolls, "I have a daddy now. He's rich, and he hugs like superheroes." Ethan arrived early Monday morning in front of Grace's apartment, dressed in jeans, sneakers, and a dark polo shirt that somehow made him look casual and expensive at the same time. Mia burst out of the door like a firecracker, her tiny backpack bouncing behind her. "Daddy!" she yelled, throwing herself at him. Ethan caught her with practiced ease and twirled her in the air once before setting her down. "Good morning, superstar." Grace followed behind her, dressed in a sleek black suit, ready for court. She stopped on the porch, arms crossed, watching them. "You're really going through with this, huh?" she asked. "I said I would." Ethan straightened Mia's collar. School drop-offs, school pickups, playground drama, snack negotiations, full package. Grace tilted her head. "You don't even like mornings." "I do now." She paused, then handed him a small lunchbox. "No peanuts. She hates them today. Yesterday she loved them. It changes like the weather." Ethan took it and nodded seriously. "No peanuts. Got it. And please, don't buy her 3 scoops of ice cream. Again. 2.5. Ethan. 1. Grace smirked and shook her head. "Call me if anything happens." He gave her a mock salute. "Go win your case, barrister." At school, Mia clung to Ethan's hand like she'd known him forever. "This is my daddy," she told the security guard. "This is my daddy," she told the principal. "This is my real daddy, not like the ones in cartoons," she told a confused janitor. Ethan laughed through all of it. When they got to her classroom door, she turned to him with a serious face. "Can you wait for me at the end of school? I'll be right outside." She nodded once. "Okay, you may go." He saluted again. "Yes, Your Highness." Over the next few weeks, Ethan became a fixture in Mia's life. He picked her up from school, memorized her snack preferences, grapes, good, bananas, traders, learned the names of every one of her dolls, each one had a tragic backstory, and mastered the delicate art of hair bow negotiation. He took her to the park on Saturdays, where she always made him pretend to be a dragon, or a kidnapped prince, or a very confused tree. "Trees don't talk, Mia," he said once. "Then be a dragon." Fine. They built pillow forts, made bad pancakes, painted like abstract geniuses with no rules. She made him laugh so hard one afternoon that he fell off the couch. Grace, watching from the kitchen, bit her lip to keep from smiling too widely. She wasn't sure when it started to shift. Maybe it was the day she found them asleep on the couch, Mia curled like a kitten on Ethan's chest, both snoring gently. Or maybe it was when Mia got sick and Ethan stayed the night, sleeping in a chair beside her bed, waking up every hour to check her fever. Or maybe it was the way he always looked at Grace when he thought she wasn't watching. Soft, steady, unapologetic. Grace told herself she was just watching, just protecting Mia, making sure Ethan didn't leave again. But something was happening, and it scared her more than she wanted to admit. One Sunday afternoon, they were all in the park. Mia ran ahead, chasing Bubbles with wild abandon. Grace sat beside Ethan on a bench, sipping iced tea. The sunlight hit his profile just right, making him look like something from a commercial about reliable husbands and family cars. "She's obsessed with you now," Grace said. Ethan smiled, watching Mia. "I'm obsessed with her, too. You're good at this." "Surprising, isn't it?" Honestly, yes, he chuckled. She's made it easy. Grace turned her head slightly. She trusts you completely, like you've always been there. I wish I had been. You're here now. Silence. Ethan's fingers tapped his knee. Can I ask something? Grace nodded. Are we okay? She looked at him. What do you mean? I mean, you and me. I know I wasn't there. I know you had to do all of this alone, but I want to make things right. Not just for Mia. For you too. Grace's throat tightened. Ethan, I'm not asking for answers. I need to know if I should keep hoping. She didn't respond right away. Instead, she stared at her daughter laughing in the sun. Her heart was doing tiny, irrational somersaults. I think, she said carefully, that we're both still figuring things out. He nodded slowly. Fair enough. But, she added, you're doing a good job with her. Their eyes met. Thanks, he said. They sat in silence again, not awkward, just full. That night, as Grace tucked Mia into bed, the little girl looked up and said, Mommy? Yes, baby? You love Daddy? Grace blinked. Why do you ask that? Because you smile different now, like Grandma does when she watches old movies. Grace smoothed Mia's hair. I think I'm still learning what I feel. Mia yawned. Okay, just don't break his heart. I like him too much. Grace stared at her daughter. How do you know what a broken heart is? Mia rolled over. Cartoons? Mommy. Duh. Downstairs, Ethan waited by the door. Grace walked him out, standing on the porch. You okay? He asked. She nodded. She's asleep. He hesitated. And you? She gave him a long look. Trying. Ethan stepped a little closer. If I told you I think about you more than I should, I'd tell you to stop saying it on my front porch at night. He laughed, low and warm. She didn't move away. Their eyes held for just a moment too long. I'll see you tomorrow, he said. Tomorrow. He turned and walked down the steps. She stood there for a while, arms crossed, feeling something rise in her chest she hadn't let surface in years. Hope. The living room was quiet, except for the hum of the ceiling fan and the occasional giggle from Mia, who was curled up on the floor watching cartoons under a mountain of blankets. The soft flicker of animated colors danced on the walls, giving the room a dreamy glow. Ethan and Grace sat on the couch, shoulder to shoulder, sipping from matching mugs of tea. No one spoke much. They didn't need to. After weeks of shared routines, after countless moments filled with laughter and cautious glances, silence between them had become comforting instead of awkward. Grace tucked her legs under her, brushing a loose curl from her forehead. She's happy, she said softly, nodding toward Mia. Genuinely, she's not the only one, Ethan replied. Grace turned her eyes to him. He was already looking at her. His gaze wasn't intense, just steady, certain. I've been thinking, he said, placing his cup down carefully, as if the next thing, he said, would matter more than anything else in the world. Grace raised an eyebrow. About? He shifted slightly to face her more fully. About us. She stayed still. I know we've taken this slow, and I know we didn't start this the normal way. But nothing about this. He gestured gently to the room, to Mia, to them. Feels wrong. It feels right. Her eyes searched his. Grace, he said, voice calm and low. Don't you think it's time we made this official? That we stop dancing around what's already real? Her heart thumped. Ethan, I want to marry you. The words weren't wrapped in roses or staged theatrics. They were plain, honest, real. Grace blinked. What? I want to marry you, he repeated. Not because Mia deserves a complete family, though she does. Not because we're co-parenting well, though we are, but because I want you. I've wanted you since the night we met, even when I didn't know your name. I still do. Every day, more. She didn't respond, and that scared him more than anything. She looked down at her mug, then set it aside, hands trembling slightly. You're serious. I've never been more. This isn't just romance or guilt or trying to fix something. He leaned in. Grace, I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm building something with you. A long pause, her breath shallow. Then, softly, you don't have a ring. He chuckled nervously. I didn't want to make it too dramatic. Honestly, I expected you to yell. I'm still considering it. Another beat, and then her lips twitched. She smiled. I'll marry you, she said. Ethan stared. I mean, yes, I'll marry you. He let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Are you sure? She nodded. Let's be strange and reckless for once. From under the blanket, Mia suddenly shouted, Did I hear the word marry? They turned, startled. Mia sat up, eyes wide like saucers. Are you getting married for real? Grace laughed. For real, baby. Mia shrieked like a fire alarm and launched herself into Ethan's arms. I told you! I told you you smelled like a husband! Ethan hugged her tightly, laughing. Is that a good smell? The best smell, she declared. Better than jollof rice? Grace covered her face, laughing through tears. We've broken the child. Mia jumped off the couch and started spinning in circles. I'm going to tell Chelsea and Grandma and everybody. The next few days were a blur of whispers, phone calls, fabric samples, and Grandma rose loudly, rejecting every wedding plan that didn't involve heavy lace and even heavier food. It may be small, she declared, but it will not be boring. I've waited years for this plot twist. Roland offered to sponsor the cake. Rose told him to sponsor peace and sit down quietly. Mia insisted on wearing a tiara. If you're the queen, Mommy, I must be the royal assistant. Grace gave up, arguing, and just bought her one. Ethan, true to his word, kept things simple. He ordered a ring, nothing flashy, just a single, perfect diamond. He proposed again in private, this time kneeling beside the kitchen sink while Grace washed dishes. You're unbelievable, she said, laughing as she dried her hands. You said yes already. I'm just following tradition. She accepted the ring. Again. The wedding was held in Grandma Rose's garden, under a white canopy, strung with fairy lights and laughter. Mia walked down the aisle first, dropping petals with intense seriousness. Grace followed, radiant in a champagne lace gown that hugged her just enough to make Ethan forget how to breathe. Ethan wore a deep navy suit with a gold pocket square, picked by Mia. Of course. The crowd was small, family, a few close friends, neighbors who had watched Grace raise Mia alone, but the love in the air was thick enough to wrap around everyone. When the vows came, Ethan took Grace's hands and said, I met you when we were both strangers running from something. One night changed everything, and now I know I wasn't lost. I was being led. You gave me a daughter. You gave me laughter. You gave me a second chance, and I will spend the rest of my life loving you, protecting you, and thanking you. Grace was already crying. I was never planning to love again, she said softly. But then you came back, like a storm wrapped in softness. You gave Mia something I could never give alone, a father who sees her. And you gave me something I'd forgotten how to want, a future. Mia stood between them, sniffling loudly. Can I say something now? She asked. Everyone laughed. Mommy, she said proudly, you made a great choice. Then she turned to Ethan. Daddy, if you ever make her sad, I'll fight you. Laughter echoed around the garden. Ethan knelt. Deal. They kissed. The applause was wild. Grandma Rose danced harder than anyone and almost broke her sandal. Roland offered her a chair. She refused and danced more. The reception was chaos in the best way. Music, food, clinking glasses, and Mia standing on a chair yelling, My parents are married, real married." At one point, Ethan found Grace under a tree, shoes off, her face glowing under fairy lights. "You good?" he asked. She nodded, leaning against him. "I feel like I'm dreaming." "Then I hope you never wake up." They kissed again. Mia saw them and yelled, "Again!" They kissed again. She clapped, the family was whole now, and nothing had ever felt more right. The first morning after the wedding, the house smelled like pancakes, coconut oil, and new beginnings. Mia sat at the kitchen counter wearing a tiara and mismatched pajamas, swinging her legs and giving Ethan cooking advice with the confidence of a Michelin star chef. "No, Daddy, you flip it before the bubbles pop, and don't burn it like last time," Mommy cried. Grace, who was buttering toast nearby, looked up. "I did not cry, I coughed," Mia nodded solemnly. "Yes, into a tissue, with emotion." Ethan laughed and flipped the pancake with flair. "There, perfect golden brown. Satisfied, Your Majesty?" Mia examined the pan. "Passable." They sat down for breakfast. Grace, Ethan, and Mia, 3 chairs, 3 mugs, 1 table. And for the first time, it wasn't temporary. It wasn't borrowed joy. It was theirs. Life settled into a beautiful mess of routines and unpredictability. Ethan had a second closet in Grace's house now. Grace kept her files in his study downtown. Mia's dolls had officially claimed territory in both. Home's weekends were sacred. Movie marathons with popcorn in hair, dance parties in the kitchen, and lazy mornings where no one rushed anywhere. Grace returned home one Tuesday evening to find Ethan and Mia doing yoga on the living room carpet. Or rather, Mia was in full downward dog while Ethan collapsed in child's pose, muttering, "Why are my hamstrings screaming?" "Because you skipped stretching," Mia said matter-of-factly. Grace dropped her bag and watched them, arms crossed, trying not to smile. "You married into this chaos," Ethan grunted. "I married into peace disguised as madness," she said, and it was true. But even peace had its storms, like the time Mia tried to bake cookies unsupervised and used salt instead of sugar, or when Ethan forgot about Spirit Week at school and sent her in regular clothes on Dress Like a Historical Queen Day. She forgave him, but only after he made a handmade Cleopatra costume the following day. "I'm never showing my face again," Ethan muttered, walking her into class. "You said that yesterday," Grace reminded him, sipping coffee. "And I meant it then, too." But through the missteps and laughter, something solidified between them. An unspoken rhythm. A shared language. A trust that didn't need dramatic declarations anymore. Grace would sometimes wake up in the middle of the night and find Ethan reading beside her, his hand resting lightly over hers in his sleep. She no longer flinched at closeness. He no longer feared being too much. Mia, of course, was the engine of it all. She narrated their lives like a tiny announcer. Mommy is going to court to fight bad people. Daddy is making oatmeal and overthinking his wardrobe. I am supervising them both. You're welcome. One evening, she crawled onto Ethan's lap mid-dinner and whispered, "I think Grandma and Grandpa Roland are in love again." Ethan choked on his rice. "What?" "They talk in the backyard. A lot. And I saw Grandma smile at him yesterday, with teeth." Grace raised an eyebrow. "With teeth?" "Yes. That means feelings." Grace and Ethan exchanged glances. Suspicion had been building. Grandma Rose had started humming love songs while cooking. Roland had begun trimming the bushes in her garden, uninvited. "Should we ask them?" Grace whispered. Ethan shook his head. "Let's wait until they crack and confess dramatically. It'll be more fun." Later that night, Grace and Ethan sat in the backyard while Mia watched cartoons inside. The night air was soft, and the stars were unusually bold. Grace sipped tea, bare feet on the grass. Ethan leaned back in his chair, arms behind his head. "So," he began. She raised an eyebrow. "Dangerous word. I was just thinking." Mia seems to want a sister. Grace nearly choked on her tea. I beg your pardon? I'm not saying now, but maybe, eventually? Grace blinked. You're serious? I mean, you're single. Wait, no, married. I'm married. We're good with kids. We already have one adorable dictator. Why not two? Grace tilted her head. You want another child? I want more of this. More mornings, more chaos, more tea in the backyard with someone who makes me want to be better. She stared at him, caught between surprise and something warmer. You've changed. He looked at her. You changed me. She set her cup down slowly. Ask me again in 6 months, when I'm not still recovering from the last 5 years. Ethan grinned. Fair deal. From the doorway, Mia called, If you're talking about babies, I want a sister with curly hair and my tablet privileges. Grace turned. You were eavesdropping? I'm invested in the storyline. They burst out laughing. The next weekend, Ethan made Sunday lunch. For everyone. Grandma Rose and Roland were invited, of course. They arrived together, in the same car. Mia ran to the window, gasped, then ran back to the kitchen. It's happening! They are back together! Operation Old People Romance is working! At the table, Roland complimented Rose's stew. Rose called him the fork thief, but blushed when he winked. Grace whispered to Ethan, They're flirting. I know. I feel unsafe. Mia stood mid-meal, holding her cup like a royal decree. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say something. Everyone turned. She raised her chin. I want to thank everyone here for coming, especially my daddy who didn't give up, and my mommy who didn't run away, and grandma and grandpa who might be dating but are in denial. Rose dropped her spoon. This child, Mia beamed. I am very proud of my family. Also, I request ice cream. That night, after the laughter faded and the dishes were done, Grace and Ethan lay in bed, staring at the ceiling in comfortable silence. Ethan turned to her. You still think we were a mistake that got lucky? She looked at him, then at the tiny hand flopped across her chest. Mia, asleep between them, snoring softly. No, Grace said. I think the mistake was assuming we couldn't be more. Ethan kissed her forehead. And now, I think we're just getting started. He smiled, then whispered, So, about that baby name list. She groaned. Ethan, I'm kidding. You are not. He grinned wider. Okay, maybe not. From the center of the bed, Mia mumbled, Name her Sparkle. They both burst into laughter, trying not to wake her. Outside, the night held no storms, just stars and laughter and the quiet thrum of something whole at last. If you watched until the end, comment the word Sparkle, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends and family.